Welcome to the Market Mindset. We are the hub for news, results, and CEO interviews focusing the junior commodities sector. We provide market analysis and perspective that will help position you for solid returns. If that sounds like something you're interested in, you can help support us by liking this video, subscribing to our channel, and clicking the notification bell. For more info, you can visit our website. All links are in the description below. Now let's get into today's video.
Good morning, everyone. It's Andrew with the Market Mindset. It's a real pleasure to catch up with Relevant Gold. I was lucky to catch up with them just a couple of weeks ago back at VRIC and the whole week long of mining conferences. But this is a great time for everyone to kind of understand what news just came out. So here we are with President and CEO Rob Bergmann, as well as Brian Lentz, who's the Chief Exploration Officer. Real pleasure to have you here. Let's just dive right into it. Tell us about the significance or this last press release. It's gotten good attention in the market, but maybe kind of walk us through what just occurred.
Yeah, you bet. Well, thanks for having us, Andrew. Always love chatting, and it was good to catch up in person in Vancouver. But yeah, I mean, we just released the news on Monday. Basically, our first ever drill program out in the South Pass camp in Wyoming. And if you remember, we've been developing a bigger overarching thesis for Wyoming, and we can touch on that. But this drill program was designed to start to test that thesis and test one of our high value targets at the Golden Buffalo project. And we're very happy to announce that we intersected 83.8 grams per ton gold over 1 meter within a kind of a greater 3 meter shear zone strain. And, we couldn't be more pleased with the result. Getting high grade gold like we've seen at the surface, deep at about 170 meters, is really good, strong confirmation of our thesis, but also gives us a lot of what we need in our toolkit to focus on targeting these as we continue into 2023.
And I mean, I get to talk to a lot of different mining companies, and I don't necessarily remember all of their theses, but I immediately have always reminded of this one because, and I'll let you kind of go through that thesis again because it was so interesting and compelling. That even me, who's not a geo, when I saw the press release, I was like, "Oh, that looks like that's indicating like that they're onto this bigger thesis." So maybe walk us through again just where this first started, and then how it ties together.
Yeah. So this started about 5 or so years ago when we really started to connect the dots in the academic literature, where they had identified the Wyoming geologic province being connected to the Abitibi gold belts during the time of mineralization, about 2.6 to 2.7 billion years ago. Later, at about 2.1 billion years, those two provinces rifted apart to where they presently reside. That's where our thesis was born, by starting to understand that in the literature. And it kind of gave us the aha moment of, well, this could mean that there's drastically overlooked gold potential in Wyoming with really large implications for scale, similar to the Abitibi. The Abitibi is one of the most prolific gold belts in the entire world. It's produced well over 200 million ounces in its tenure. And that opens up Wyoming now to a similar potential with this new thesis. And that's where we started to put our boots on the ground and test this thesis right out the gate through systematic exploration, taking us up and through getting the company listed, which we did last August. And congruent with that listing, kicked off our first ever drill program at the Golden Buffalo project. And that's when we started to want to really test the geology and the architecture of the subsurface, identify if these shear zones that we mapped at surface that were enriched in gold were truly orogenic style shear zones that extended to depth and along strike, and start to build out the framework of how we can actually test for an opportunity of scale. We're really happy that the results from this first ever program came back so positively. It's kind of a very strong affirmation of the thesis, and gives us a lot of good reasons to continue to develop our entire portfolio of projects throughout Wyoming.
And these shear structures, I mean, that's one of the key parts that I even remember when we first spoke. And I mean, because I've done some work looking at like Kirkland Lake and things like that, they can tend to be these, a meter or a meter and a half, 2 meters, but high grade and, kind of scattered down or branching down into these shear type structures. I, as a layman, kind of understood that. So for me, when I saw that news release, I thought that is similar to what you'd expect to find up there, which is confirming that this thesis is I mean, we can't say it's 100% correct, but it's looking very attractive.
Yep, it didn't fail. And
No.
so it gives us the encouragement that we have to keep going, and we really got to test all of our targets appropriately. And to that exact point, these are nearly vertical anastomosing shear zones. It's a number of different shear strands that are kind of fingering together, as you pointed out. And that gold, that high grade gold, was intersected at 170 meters. So, you know, we've got these shear zones extending to depth, and the high grade mineralization extending to depth, which is a huge you know, notch in the belt, if you will, and check of a box for not only our thesis, but for, you know, homing in on an actual orogenic depositive scale. And that's what we're focused on now.
And I mean, not to be too promotional, but we know that at the Abitibi, you can go down kilometers, like 2 kilometers. I mean, these things go, if you're into the same kind of structure, they go down deep. And right now you're getting great results pretty shallow.
Yeah, exactly. So the Golden Buffalo Shear Zone, you know, our work in 2021 really was able to extend the shear zone at surface to over 1 kilometer of strike length. And that gave us a lot of strong framework for testing this through drilling. And we had high grade gold mineralization at the surface there in the Golden Buffalo Trench. And that high grade gold mineralization was not necessarily anticipated at depth, but we were glad to see it. And this hole was about 400 meters step out to the east from where the known surface mineralization was as well. So it's really showing us that we have a true larger orogenic system that we're going to have to continue to test at depth and understand how we can, you know, string this gold together. Where does it occur within the shear zone? But what we do know is the Golden Buffalo Shear Zone is a deep-rooted shear zone that is fertile at depth, and that's a huge check of the box.
One of the other exciting things about the results from our drilling program was we also were testing other shears we identified at surface just to the north of the primary Golden Buffalo Shear Zone. And what we found through our drilling was multiple of these other shears are mineralized in the drill core. So we've now started to put together a corridor, if you will, of a stacked shear system, which is what we were observing at surface, but we weren't sure if and how many there were, how much they continued at depth, and if there was any mineralization associated with these other shears as well. So it's really kind of opened up the whole corridor within the Golden Buffalo project for further testing. And it's also confirmed that there are in fact more than one mineralized shear zone. And so that also is really exciting. And while, you know, our primary and really high grade intercept at depth in the Golden Buffalo Shear Zone is really the highlight of the program. We don't, you know, it's important that it doesn't overshadow the additional mineralization that we found in some of these other shears within the project.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up, because once again, I remember that discussion too, is that, you know, you found a number of these shears, which would be the same thing that you'd expect to find in the Abitibi. I mean, there's clusters of mines up there. And, you know, having that, once again, not getting too, it's hard not to get too excited where the mind goes, oh my goodness, if it's on the same path that the Abitibi has gone, this is significant. But I don't want to run before taking little baby steps. These are big baby steps to take, though. I mean, this is good to see these other shear zones also providing you some good data to build upon.
Exactly.
Yeah, so, you know, in summation of that, Andrew, we drilled 26 holes at Golden Buffalo, 3,500 meter program. 54% of those holes returned anomalous gold over 0.1 gram per ton. So again, really illustrating that we have a fertile system at depth. We already knew we had a fertile system in the surface, and seeing a lot of our surface assay results up to 5 ounces per ton. But to really get this continued at depth through, as well as in multiple shear zones, tells us that this is a big system that had a long-lived fluid evolution, exactly what we want to see for an Abitibi style model.
So it's one way, it's kind of unfortunate the news came out Monday because you missed AIM and VREC, but PDAC is coming out, and this is such a technical story that I'm sure you'll be wanting to be around your brethren to share the excitement, and they're going to have opinions and thoughts to go through all the data. That must be pretty fun as well.
Definitely. I mean, we're a very technically focused group. So to get these, you know, strong technical successes right out the gate is exciting, but it also opens up a lot of new questions and a lot of new things that we want to understand deeper on the specifics around gold mineralization and what does that actually mean. And being able to go to PDAC and yuck it up with our fellow geologists in the industry is going to be really exciting. A lot of them have been watching the story closely, waiting to see, are we going to truly intersect some gold in the drill hole? Now that we have, we can actually talk about it and, and get into the deeper conversation as us nerds like to, when it comes to thinking about the geology and how does this actually fit into the overarching model, and where do we go next? And we've been pretty excited to look at all this data internally and start to build all that out as we, look forward to a really busy and robust season in 2023.
Well, I mean, that's a perfect segue. I mean, what's the next steps here? I mean, we've got PDAC, so we know that's going to happen. But as far as the company, what's the next kind of step forward, and then planning out the rest of the year kind of milestones to look for?
Yeah, so I mean, the logical next step is to kind of continue aggressive exploration out there. Use our systematic approach, continue to drill at Golden Buffalo. We'd also like to drill some of our other amazing targets that we have permitted at Lewiston, and combine that with a regional program. If you might have recalled from one of our other previous news releases, we had identified a number of new orogenic shear zones through our regional mapping. And all of those need significant amount of systematic exploration follow-up, moving them through our pipeline of opportunities and generating new targets, new permits, and really kind of focused on the overarching idea, which is not only to prove up the thesis, but if this thesis has merit, to have a pipeline of discovery opportunities in front of us for the company, really providing a lot of that exploration upside potential for our shareholder base.
Then how much money do you guys still have in the bank right now?
Well, we've got about 900,000 in the bank. So we'll likely go into some capital raising at some point and refill the treasury for kind of, again, this more aggressive season this year.
Yeah, I was going to say, I mean, because PDAC tends to be a place where, deals get made, people want to talk. And I like to kind of point that out to a lot of generalist investors, that why that's kind of critical, having this information leading into PDAC. I mean, you're going to be faced, not that you have to answer these, but you'll be faced with questions like, how big a raise do we want? Do we go after all the targets? Because I'm sure there's going to be lots of interest from some of these groups, because if they're seeing and they're convinced that this thesis is coming together, I'm sure you're going to attract a lot of conversations, to say the least.
Yeah, definitely. And we look forward to those conversations, as far as our plans and how much money we're going to raise, we'll be putting pins in that. And we've got a very well-rounded board, and we're really excited to kind of put all that together and seek the guidance as well from people like Ron Parrott and Sarah Weber and Peter McGaugh, who've been through this rodeo a few times and have a good understanding of the best way to kind of position the company for the future now.
Well, I mean, it's great to catch up with you. And like I said, it was great to just, hear the story again whenever I met with you before any of this news came out. And I was just reminded of, like I said, there's few theses that I get that kind of pumped about, that I think, wow, both from, a potential opportunity for making money, but also as a thesis to go, oh, can you imagine if you were able to prove that was once there and this was connected? That's pretty wild. I mean, that's just, if I put my kind of geek hat on, it's pretty significant to test for that. And that's, I think, got both my curiosity as well as my my more capitalist side as well was very turned on by it.
Yeah, well, obviously it has very large implications, Andrew, but the other thing is the Abitibi is not only one of the most prolific belts, but these orogenic high-grade deposits, they're not found easily. So for us to get such a great intercept right out the gate was, a lot of serendipity, I think, involved in that, right? That for any of us to think that luck isn't involved in exploration, we're crazy. But at the end of the day, now that we really feel like we've confirmed this Abitibi style mineralization model, and we can start to dig deeper into this year, sky's the limit on, what this thesis could result in. And we're definitely got the team and the right group to execute. And one of the things that has been repeatedly said to us since this news dropped was that, hey, we did everything we said we were going to do, from raising the capital, getting the company listed, drilling what we drilled, and getting results out. And so we take a lot of pride in that and our ability to execute on a good plan. We've got a great board creating really, really sound plans with management. And we're looking forward to executing on another great plan here in 2023.
Yeah, I mean, I couldn't agree more. And I'll make the assumption that you'll probably roll out that plan after PDAC when you kind of have a bit more data as well as economic data to see what the next step will be. But you've kind of hinted that you'd like to be aggressive. I can't see why you wouldn't want to be. It's pretty exciting. But we'll love to follow up whenever we find out what that looks like and what the plans moving forward. Because that's really the next thing if someone's eagerly waiting is to see, okay, like what approach are you guys going to take next? So that's going to be pretty fun.
Yeah. And we're looking forward to putting that out there. But first things first is we're looking at all the data and we're letting that drive our decision making. We are a technically focused group, and the news just dropped because it was material. We had to turn it out right after we got the results as soon as possible, right? So now we're really looking forward to taking all the data, putting it into our geologic models. Brian and the technical team are really digging into that and starting to generate new targets at Golden Buffalo, new ideas. And really formalizing the actual plan for the year. So we'll be looking forward to sharing that with you once we do put that out.
Excellent. Well, it's always a pleasure to catch up with a company that, like you said, it started, it met its milestones, and it also got good results on their first drill. That is serendipity to say the least. So it's always fun having this conversation because it's showing a strategy work very positively, very quickly.
Yep, which isn't always the case in our industry.
No, which is mostly not the case. It's hard. It's mining after all. It's usually I have to ask people that, if there's a mindset of a miner, because it's mostly bad news you're going to get until you test, and then something comes together. But this is a very strong indication of a bigger type of conversation that is definitely coming to fruition to some extent.
Yeah, and we look forward to continue to test the thesis and build from here.
Excellent. Well, I really appreciate the update. Congratulations again. It was a great news release, and we look forward to getting this out to people and letting them know what you guys have done here.
Thanks, Andrew. Appreciate the time as always, and look forward to chatting with you again soon.
Absolutely. Take care.
Likewise, take care.
Cheers.